Analysis machine. Are we all set?
Preparations have been completed.
Then you already know what to do.
Initiating reality blend protocol.
Hey guys, this is D Reaper, and today we're going to be rewriting the entire first arc of Boruto in 30 minutes or less. Now, for this rewrite, we're going to be using the basic materials they provide in Boruto, meaning we're not going to create a slew of new characters to make the story actually work. Just good old-fashioned consistency, attention to detail, common sense, and respect to the source material. Now, if you're just joining us, you might want to know that this is actually part of an ongoing series where we review and critique Boruto. According to our data, 93% of our viewers have joined us halfway. If you're interested in joining our journey from the beginning, I'll have the analysis machine leave a link somewhere around here. This might be helpful because we're going to use some of the conclusions that we drew from those videos to write this one. But with all that out of the way, it's about time to get started. Analysis machine. Start the countdown.
Your 30 minutes have started.
First off, we're going to get rid of this whole Boruto versus Kawaki scene. Now, I know what they're trying to do here, but there's a reason why it works in one and not the other. On one hand, we have two beloved characters that, under normal circumstances, probably wouldn't be acting this way. And on the other hand, we have two characters that we don't know doing a thing. Not to mention, in one of these cases, we get answers relatively early in the series, and the other is, well, to be decided. We're going to start off episode 1 of Boruto in Naruto's office, with Shikamaru giving a brief of where he sent Naruto's shadow clones today. While this is happening, we get a pan of the office displaying several pictures and memorabilia of what happened in our absence. Maybe a picture of a pregnant Hinata, one at Shikamaru and Tamari's wedding, and a photograph of the day Naruto was being sworn in as Hokage. When Shikamaru notices that Naruto seems distracted, he stops and asks what's wrong. Initially, Naruto does not want to say, but Big Brain Shikamaru correctly deduces that Naruto is anxious that Boruto will be starting at the academy tomorrow. Shikamaru tries to comfort his friend, reminding Naruto that Boruto has outstanding grades and did not inherit his weakness for academics. But to that, Naruto counters that Boruto did inherit his tendencies of being a troublemaker. To that, they both have a laugh, and then Shikamaru tells Naruto to go ahead and take the rest of the day off. Naruto, of course, tries to protest, but Shikamaru assures him that he has everything covered here, and that it would probably be best for Naruto to go out and clear his head. After all, he does have an in-person speech to give to the new academy students tomorrow. From there, we spend a good portion of the episode with Naruto walking around the village and catching up with the previous cast, mainly focusing on the Genin 9 and the prior Team 10. Maybe Ino and Inojin are out getting some last-minute supplies for tomorrow, but since Inojin is literally the worst name I've ever heard, we're going to change his name to Genus. We also see Rock and Metal Lee, but in this version, Metal is a 5 or 6 year old kid. And we're gonna play up the mystery of his bomb like a certain someone not having a job. Things go on in this manner till Naruto makes it home and we see Hinata and Himawari. They sit down for a family dinner, but Naruto is curious of why Boruto isn't there. To this, Hinata responds that it's actually pretty common for Boruto to take his dinner late, and that it's something of a hit and miss on if he'll show up on time. To this, Naruto inwardly laments that if he was home more often he would have noticed those patterns, and wonders to himself if he should dial back the late nights at work. Later that night, Hinata senses that there's something wrong and she asks Naruto if everything's okay. He confides in her, telling her that he's worried about Boruto starting the academy. After all, it was a very rough part of his childhood, and he really doesn't want to see his son go through all that. But Hinata assures him that that won't be an issue. Whatever challenges Boruto faces, they will all face them together as a family. Satisfied? Naruto goes to sleep. We then cut to the next day at the academy with Naruto preparing for his speech. The other academy students are assembled, but Boruto is nowhere to be found. Shikamaru is trying to calm Naruto as he is now believing that all his fears are coming to fruition. And just as Shikamaru is telling Naruto they can't wait any longer, a train car comes flying out of nowhere and smashes right into Hokage Mountain, specifically on Naruto's face. Everyone stares in disbelief as Boruto crawls out of the train car. And this is going to be the first look at Boruto we get in the series. Unlike the original, this will not be a proud display of egotistical self-importance and a severe lack of situational awareness. Boruto climbs out of the car shakily and calls to someone that we can't see, telling them that his gamble paid off. Like before, Konohamaru arrives on the scene, but since this Boruto isn't absolutely insufferable, he knows the situation looks bad and asks for a chance to explain himself. To this, Konohamaru agrees, though he's obviously dubious to any explanation Boruto might give. And this is where we're ending off episode 1. Episode 2 is going to start off with Boruto in his room, lamenting about his 2-week suspension. We get a brief overview of the events leading up to the train crash from Boruto's perspective. Denki is identified as one of Boruto's friends, though their exact meeting time is unspecified. But all in all, what began as an unexpected meeting of a few unsavory hooligans ended with Boruto and Denki being caught on a runaway train car and Boruto strategically crashing it into a non-residential area before it could circle back and do more damage. He believes that he made the best decision considering the circumstance and is frustrated that Naruto can't see that. He didn't mention the strange aura that he saw around Denki, nor that he was the main instigator of the incident, partly because he didn't want to get his friend in trouble, but also because at this point he believes his eyes were playing tricks on him. But that doesn't really matter. Since his suspension will be ending tomorrow, he can go to school and put this whole incident behind him. But since life is really that easy, he finds out when he goes to school that several rumors of what went down are actually circulating, including one that this whole thing was some massive prank. Boruto does his best to shake it off and puts in the work to make up for his absence, but it isn't long before he has a confrontation with Iwabe. This bit plays out more or less the same way it goes in the original, with Boruto and Iwabe finding common ground. And though the situation ends well, for those who are further removed from the conflict, there is now an additional rumor of Boruto picking fights with his classmates, with a hinting that this information might get back to Naruto. Now, with our first 2 episodes, we have a solid foundation of our 2 diverging perspectives. So let's speed things up. Start episode 3 with Mitsuki's transfer into Boruto's class, and right away we're going to drop the whole flip-flopping psychosocial emotional awareness bit. I've basically been brought up as a experimental bioweapon, and I'm not sure how to handle myself when presented with non-combative stimuli. Naturally, everybody is curious about the new student who they can see something is slightly off with, but nothing major. This changes when, in a sparring match, he is pit against Iwabe. Much like in the original version, Mitsuki goes overboard and nearly kills Iwabe, but stops when he's literally pulled off of Iwabe by both Shino-sensei and Boruto. In this version, Boruto's presence has little to do with stopping Mitsuki, and much more weight is put on Shino-sensei's presence, as he was ordered to maintain a somewhat covert presence. For Mitsuki, words like practice and training have a lot more brutal implications, and he truly believed he was operating within the perimeters of his instruction. After this, the other students kind of give Mitsuki a wide berth, but Boruto, who's consistently a good character in this version, has empathy for Mitsuki, noting that first impressions can be difficult as he had his own rough start with the class. After school's dismissed, Boruto asks Mitsuki if he wants to stay after and train with him for a little bit, to show him what is appropriate and inappropriate for academy regulations. Mitsuki, seeing this as a way to increase his mission efficiency, quickly agrees. The two train long into the evening, where Boruto realizes that Mitsuki is extremely strong, but he attributes it to the idea that Mitsuki just doesn't know his own strength. By the time they conclude their training, it seems that Mitsuki has a pretty good idea of the level of output he needs to use when paired with other students. To celebrate their success, Boruto brings Mitsuki home with him to enjoy a meal. As they eat, and Boruto shows Mitsuki his collection of comics and video games, Mitsuki begins to get frustrated, wondering what the point of all of this actually is. To that, Boruto explains to him that there's no real objective, it's just hanging out and being friends. This is a new concept to Mitsuki. And we end the episode with him trying to process what exactly that means. We start off episode 4 a few weeks later, where it seems like Boruto has successfully integrated Mitsuki in with the other students. This is the episode where we get the full introduction onto who these new characters are through Mitsuki and Boruto's interactions with them. For the major changes, we're also dropping Genos's inconsistent lack of social awareness for being more of a loose cannon. And as far as our bargain bin wannabe Hinata ripoff, we're gonna scrap all that and up her stats and professionalism, justifying her position as class rep, and we're gonna make her a self-imposed wallflower, because although people frequently reach out to her, she usually comes up with excuses on why she can't participate in group activities, whether it be because of things involving her other duties as class rep, or something else equally vague. As a subplot, we see Iwabe kind of struggling to find his place in the class. When he stopped being the class bully, he was still recognized at least as the strongest in class, but now that Mitsuki has dethroned him, he's not sure where he stands. To make matters worse, Iwabe overhears some of his old classmates talking about him, saying that he's lost his edge and now he's getting beaten up by underclassmen. Shortly after this, we see a frustrated Iwabe being consumed by a dark aura. That same day, Iwabe interrupts Boruto and Mitsuki's routine after-school session to invite them to an empty classroom. Once they're alone, Iwabe begins to attack. We begin episode 5 with Boruto and Mitsuki running from Iwabe, while Mitsuki is commenting that Iwabe is not using the appropriate force designated for training and is wondering if he should respond in kind. But Boruto insists that you don't use lethal force against your friends. And noting that he can now see a dark aura around Iwabe, he's beginning to connect the dots. After being cornered, Boruto tries to use his inferior Dark no Jutsu on Iwabe, but it's no good, and Iwabe launches an attack that could seriously injure Boruto. However, at the last moment, Mitsuki swoops in and hits Iwabe with a very powerful attack that knocks him out. At first, Boruto is horrified, thinking that Mitsuki might have seriously injured Iwabe, but Mitsuki assures him that he used only the appropriate force necessary, benchmarking his growth. When Iwabe comes to, Boruto can no longer sense that dark shadow over him. Iwabe himself can't really remember the whole event, but he does confess to feeling out of sorts since his run-in with his former classmates. Boruto gives him a hard time for letting a bunch of miscreants get under his skin, but after talking things out, Boruto suggests Iwabe should begin training with them after school. It's just then that several teachers rush in, having been startled by the magnitude of Mitsuki's last attack. Seeing the damage that the boys have caused with their fight, they are sentenced to detention, and their homeroom teacher, Shino Sensei, is alerted. Between the fighting in class and the destruction of property, it seems apparent that Shino's class is out of line, and he's reprimanded harshly to get things under control. We end the episode with Shino Sensei being consumed by a dark aura. We began episode 6 with Mitsuki making a report to his mysterious contact. Quite surprisingly, his report seems to be Boruto this and Boruto that. His contact reminds him that he is but an observer, and warns him from getting too close to the subjects. We then cut to Boruto and his class ready for another day of school, but surprisingly, Shino Sensei is nowhere to be seen, and they're given a substitute for the day. After class, a few of the students are discussing for Shino Sensei to miss class, when a student runs up to Boruto presenting a letter and saying it's from Shino Sensei. Inside the letter are instructions for Boruto, Mitsuki, and Iwabe to report to a random location in a nearby forest. Shugadai, who happens to be there when they receive the letter, is dragged along as well. Upon arriving on location, they see Shino-sensei looking out of sorts. They are not surprised that he's angry, but it becomes obvious very quickly that his anger is proportional to the situation. When he tries to attack, Boruto's eye activates once again, revealing another ghost possession. After a brief scuffle, the boys manage to escape, noting that Shino-sensei is way too strong for them to take head-on. It only takes a second for them to realize that Mitsuki is no longer with them. Boruto thinks Shino-sensei might have gotten to him and wants to go back immediately, but Shikadai warns him that acting recklessly could get them killed. After some planning, the three come up with a strategy that they think will be effective against Shino-sensei. However, when they are able to put their plan in motion, it turns out that they have severely underestimated their opponent, and it's not too long before the three of them are on the ropes. Meanwhile, Mitsuki watches nearby from a concealed location. Looking conflicted, he definitely wants to help the others, but he knows he cannot disobey orders. As Shino-sensei moves in to finish the boys off, they begin calling out to him earnestly, trying to get through to him with their words. For just a second, it looks like Shino-sensei falters, and it's just at that moment that Mitsuki jumps out and hits Shino-sensei with a very powerful attack. The combination of force and sympathy is able to snap Shino-sensei back to his true self. But now, near exhaustion, he falls to his knees, barely able to stand. And the boys are able to get him, as well as themselves, to the infirmary to be treated. The aftermath of this incident plays out the same way as it does in the original, with Naruto and Shikamaru deciding to open up an investigation. Except in this version, we have an extra scene with the four boys talking, and Boruto and Iwabe commending Mitsuki on his impeccable timing, while Shikamaru finds the whole thing a little too convenient and is growing suspicious. Episode 7 is more or less the same as in the original, except in this version, in addition to the stuff going on with what's her name, there's a B-plot of Naruto and his investigation on the rampage, connecting the dots with a former academy student and a disgruntled construction worker. They begin to suspect the academy as a place of interest involving the attack. This is also where they come up with the connection to Danzo and the root. At the episode's conclusion, after Magi Ray is dealt with, we have an extended scene of Boruto talking to what's-her-name, where he tells her how worried he was when he heard her call for help and how glad he is that she's okay. Given her nature, what's-her-name tries to downplay the whole incident, saying that it would be a big shame if they had to pick a new class rep. But Boruto's not having any of that. Making it personal with a shoulder touch, he tells the class rep, title or not, things just wouldn't be the same if she wasn't part of the class. Boruto's earnestness shocks what's-her-name, and in spite of herself, she cannot hide how meaningful those words were. Episode 8, we start off with Boruto and his friends arriving at the Ninja Academy, and they notice an increase in the amount of guards around the school. Noting that this is strange, but they are still content to go about their business. That is until Boruto realizes that he recognizes one of the guards. Breaking away from the group, Boruto runs up to him, and the ninja deactivates his Byakugan just as Boruto reaches him. The ninja, obviously recognizing Boruto as the son of the Hokage, becomes a bit uncomfortable upon Boruto's approach, and only seems to get more anxious when Boruto asks exactly what it is that he's doing. Boruto, growing suspicious as the ninja continues to dodge the question, asks him if he's up to anything weird. Insulted and embarrassed, the ninja finally confesses that he's on the lookout for any suspicious activity. Because of his prior apprehension, Boruto is not convinced, but the ninja continues to explain in more detail, saying that by using his Byakugan, he can detect abnormalities in chakra. This explanation clicks for Boruto, as he suddenly has an explanation for the odd things he has been able to see. After school, he rushes home, declaring that he has an announcement for the whole family. He even says that he's willing to wait as long as it takes for Naruto to come home, so he can tell him in person. But he's in luck, because today, Naruto comes home early. With the family gathered, he gives his big announcement, that he has awakened his Byakugan. After they get over the initial shock, everyone is thrilled at the idea of having another Byakugan user in the family. but when they ask if they can see it, there's a problem.
He can't do it on command.
And things kinda go downhill from there. The more Boruto describes his Byakugan, the less like a Byakugan it sounds, until the point that Naruto becomes convinced that this is an elaborate prank, and reprimands Boruto for joking about things like this. Justifiably, Boruto gets upset at the fact that Naruto doesn't believe him, and this is the first heated confrontation that we have between these two in the series. Hinata steps in and declares that if this is a mystery concerning Byakugan, then the best person to settle it is Hiyashi Hyuga, her father. So the family goes to see him so they can settle this matter once and for all. Upon arrival, they explain the situation, and Hiyashi has Boruto spar with Hinabi as a test. We're gonna change up Boruto's fighting style to something better suited for someone who does not have near unlimited chakra. But the match still ends in defeat with no activation of a Byakugan. Boruto takes the loss pretty hard because in his mind, he's not just sparring against Hinabi, it's also a fight to prove Naruto wrong for doubting. But it's getting late, and the family decides to spend the night at the Hyuga compound, so Boruto sets it up, pretends it doesn't bother him, and tries to move on. Late that night, Hinabi talks with Boruto, asking if there's something going on between him and Naruto. Boruto explains that lately it seems like it's impossible for him to do right by Naruto, and that he was really hoping this would work out. Hinabi encourages Boruto not to give up, and tells him that if he needs any help with anything, she'd be happy to do what she can. This does do something to lift Boruto's spirit, but at the same time, he finds it hard to believe Hinabi can relate. After all, he knows that she unlocked her Byakugan when she was much younger than himself. Feeling restless, Boruto wanders into town and is so consumed by his own thoughts that he doesn't initially hear that someone is calling out to him. It's Sarada. Sarada can tell right away that something is bothering Boruto, but he tries to put on a brave face to put her at ease. But Sarada is going to persist, saying that she sees Boruto doing his best to make sure nobody in their class goes through their struggles alone, and she's not going to let him be the exception to that. Given his track record, Boruto doesn't want to go into details about the ghost, but he does confess to his disappointment about not being able to unlock his Byakugan. Surprisingly, Sarada is able to understand his plight, saying that she has not been able to awaken her Sharingan, and sometimes she feels like if she was able to do so, it would make her closer to her dad. After a wholesome conversation, the two agree not to give up on their goals and to help each other out wherever they can. Episode 9 starts off with Boruto searching the town for any incidents involving the ghost, and he's accompanied by Mitsuki and Shigadai. Seeing that thus far his eye has only activated when in the presence of somebody going on a rampage, he believes this might be the best course of action to activate his Byakugan, as well as protecting the village from the ghost. However, after spending most of the day searching, they come up empty-handed. Just as they're ready to close up shop for the day, one of Naruto's clones spots them, and their cover is blown. After Naruto's clone interrogates them, they admit that they are trying to look for more incidents involving the ghost. This seems to anger Naruto, who drags the group to the hospital where they rendezvous with the real Naruto. Angrily, he shows them the aftermath of the latest victim of a ghost incident. This was an attack that Boruto and the others were not aware of. Naruto tries to explain to them how dangerous the situation is and that they should do their best to stay away from anything having to do with the ghost. Boruto says that they already know that the ghost has some kind of connection to the school, and if there's something that they can do, that they want to help. Naruto, seeing their earnestness, softens a little bit, says that it's his job to protect the village, and it's their job to do well at the academy. If they want to help, then they should focus on becoming outstanding ninja. Without a rebuttal, Boruto is forced to submit. A few days later, Boruto and Shigadai are rushing to school, being late after having to pick up some new video game. However, when they enter the class, it's to a somber atmosphere. They are informed that there was another rampage attack yesterday evening. The rampage was quelled, but not before two individuals were hurt in the process, that being Sarada and the class rep. Class lets out early and the group goes to the hospital together to check on their classmates. And although Sarada and the class rep assure everyone that they are doing fine, the reality of seeing his friends in the hospital is enough to push Boruto to the edge. Racked with guilt, he blames himself for not being able to do more to protect his friends. Later that evening, Boruto, Shigadai, and Mitsuki are in town, and the two are trying to cheer Boruto up concerning this latest attack, trying to convince him that it's not his fault. But they don't seem to be making much progress. Finally, Shigadai takes off, saying that he has to leave before curfew, and Boruto, still in a state, says he should probably do the same. Mitsuki, who appears to have been conflicted this whole time, finally tells Boruto to wait, and reveals that he knows the truth about who is causing the rampage. Boruto, who only half believes the claim, demands that Mitsuki tell him who it is. But Mitsuki insists that he needs to wait, and that it would be more effective if he shows him. Boruto begins to grow more agitated as a few hours go by, and is nearly at the point of lashing out when Mitsuki tells him that it's time and that he should follow him. Mitsuki leads Boruto around town, and when they finally arrive at the hospital, Boruto has had enough. He stops telling Mitsuki that he's waited long enough, and if Mitsuki really knows who is causing these incidents, he needs to tell Boruto right now. In response, Mitsuki simply says, "It's the class rep." Boruto is initially so shocked by the answer that he starts laughing, but when Mitsuki has nothing else to say, Boruto becomes angry. He grabs Mitsuki by the shirt, saying that you don't talk that way about your friends. But Mitsuki calmly responds, from everything Boruto has taught him about friendship, the class rep is not really their friend. This makes Boruto even more upset. Then he stops, realizing their current situation, and asks Mitsuki, is he saying that the class rep put herself in the hospital? But Mitsuki explains it's part of her ploy to throw them off her trail. After this, Boruto seems mad enough to punch Mitsuki, and seems about to do so. But Mitsuki calmly states all they have to do is go up to her room to verify that Mitsuki is telling the truth. They do so, and the two are faced with an empty hospital bed. Boruto asks where is the class rep, and Mitsuki responds that she left while they were talking outside. When Boruto asks how he knows this, Mitsuki says that he put a tracker on her earlier that day, and that she's actually not too far away from their current location. The two give chase, and it's not long before they find themselves in front of a masked figure. Mitsuki calls out to the mysterious individual, saying that she might as well take off her mask because they already know who is behind it. The class rep tries to run, but Mitsuki moves in with a quick attack. The two exchange a few blows, but this is actually a play to destroy her mask. After a few blows, the mask is shattered, and the class rep's face is revealed. Episode 10. Boruto is stunned and rendered immobile at having to come face to face with this reality. Meanwhile, What's-Her-Name and Mitsuki are having a back and forth. She asks how they found her out, and Mitsuki tells her it's pretty simple for anyone who's paying attention. Boruto speaks up for the first time during the conversation, pleading with the class rep to tell him that this isn't true. The class rep, taking full notice of Boruto for the first time, realizes that he still wants to have faith in her. The sentiment somewhat causes Sumire to look ashamed of her actions, and she struggles to find the words to say to Boruto. But before she can find the words, Mitsuki speaks up, saying that the class rep has never been their friend, that friends don't attack each other, friends don't use excessive force on classmates, and friends don't do things that make each other sad. And since the class rep is decidedly not their friend, there's no reason that Mitsuki should have to hold back against. He assures Boruto that he will be much happier after he has killed Sumire. With that, Mitsuki launches at the class rep with killing intent, and Sumire, snapping back to her assassin mindset, begins to attack him in kind. From here, things play out somewhat similar to episode 13 and 14 in the original version, where the three end up having a showdown in Nue's pocket dimension. But we're gonna scrap the subplot of Naruto and Co. dealing with the non-threat of Nue. The fight comes to a halt when Boruto gets injured while standing between Sumire and Mitsuki, and the class rep looks openly horrified that she might have seriously injured Boruto. And Boruto remarks that she doesn't have the expression of an assassin. Using inferior type no jutsu, Boruto asks Sumire why she's bothering to do all this when it's clearly tearing her apart. Instead of living for the past, why not just accept the many hands reaching out to her? Sumire tries one last desperate ploy to complete the mission, but even Niue can see that her heart's not in it, and in the end she surrenders, saying the two of them can go ahead and kill her if they want. But of course Boruto has other plans. He tells the class rep that if she turns herself in willingly and agrees to work with the village officials, that they will show some leniency. We end the episode with the three arriving at the Hokage's office late at night, where Naruto is still hard at work. Boruto informs him that they have important information regarding the case of the rampages. Episode 11 takes place a few weeks later, as Sai and his team have just successfully removed the Gozu Tenmo after several failed attempts. Most of the episode revolves around the fate of Sumire, but this time we have real. Not a lot of people know about Sumire's involvement in the attacks, and Naruto and the others are debating the best course of action for the situation. Boruto and Mitsuki were sworn to silence in the meeting. After a long debate, it's decided that since Sumire didn't actually go through with the plan and that there were no lasting injuries, Sumire will be allowed to stay in the village and what transpired will remain classified. They bring in Boruto and Mitsuki and inform them that for Sumire's safety, this incident will remain classified. It's only after they agree to these terms that they are allowed to speak with Sumire. While they're talking, Sumire informs them that she will be returning to class shortly, but confesses that she's not sure how she's supposed to be around everybody considering what she almost did, especially Sarada. But repeating the sentiment from before, Boruto tells her to just accept the hands that are reaching out. A few days later, at the Ninja Academy, the class is interrupted when class rep walks in. Being in their presence, Sumire appears overwhelmed and unsure of what to say. But in a display of overwhelming affection, the class stops everything to acknowledge her return and welcome her back. It seems that Boruto was correct. Even though she didn't realize it, her place in the class went far beyond her title as class rep. After sharing a look with Boruto, her emotions overwhelm her as she wonders how she could have possibly taken all of this for granted. After this, we have the same epilogue with Naruto meeting up with Sasuke, hinting at the next arc as we bring this one to a close. Analysis machine, where are we on time?
The time limit has been exceeded.
Shoot, we were so close.
Would you like me to adjust the title of the video?
Nah, just leave it as is. We'll get it next time.
The hecklers are no doubt on their way.
Well, we should be long gone before they get here. But before that, what did you guys think of the rewrite? Did we get it right? Did we miss the mark? Let us know in the comment section. And if you made it this far, go ahead and leave a like on the video on your way out. It makes a big difference. And with that, it's about time we get going. My name is D Reaper, and I'm a YouTuber for fun. Today's challenge, write something. Good luck, and I'll see y'all in the next.